Without further ado, I would like to invite Wayne Cooper, the Honorary Consul of Mexico to North Carolina, to introduce the ambassador. Wayne.
Thank you for your question. LJ, Madam Consul General, Senor Embajador, and Mrs. Moctezuma, welcome very much to the Charlotte World Affairs Council here. We welcome you to Charlotte, and I hope this will be the first of many trips that you're going to make back here. You know, LJ mentioned I've been the honorary consul for 43 years, and that really means that Mike over here always says that I'm the oldest rat in the bar. About it, but over those 43 years, we've had many, many ambassadors here from Mexico, and it always generates a lot of enthusiasm. Today it's sold out, of course, of the tribute there, and we welcome all of you here. I know, Mr. Ambassador, you have a very busy schedule today, both here and in Raleigh. And so we don't want to take away from any questions. Now, the bios y'all have been sent out, but I want to hit just a few of the highlights. Ambassador Moctezuma was appointed as ambassador to the United States by President Manuel Lopez Obrador in 2021. He had a very, very distinguished career. In fact, I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that has held more important positions. Secretary of Education, Secretary of Social Development, Senator of Mexico, Secretary of Interior, Undersecretary of Education. His education is almost as varied also. He holds a Bachelor of Economics from UNAM at the University of Mexico, a very prestigious school. Master's degree from the University of Cambridge, that's Cambridge that's over in UK. Graduate degree from the University of Tokyo in Japan. And has a doctorate from the University of Science and Art in Chiapas. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome His Excellency Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Wayne. I think that you are one of the best friends of Mexico in the United States, and we're very proud of being here with you today. And I appreciate your dedication and your commitment to strengthen the ties between our communities. Thank you very much, NJ. Where are you? Here. You've been all around that. You can eat right now. And thanks for having me here in the World Affairs Council of Charlotte and your kind invitation to speak here today. And thank you, Claudia Velasco, our consul, for representing with such commitment Mexico in North Carolina and in South Carolina. As many of you know, and we just heard from LJ, Mexico just celebrated elections on June the 2nd, and Claudia Sheinbaum was elected as Mexico's first woman president, marking a historic milestone, not just for Mexico, but for all the North American region. Her election shatters significant glass ceiling and underscores the evolving role of women in Mexican society. Gender parity is present in most aspects of public life. I believe that gender parity is ending in Mexico because the Supreme Court has a she president, the Senate House has a she president, the president of the Republic will be a she, and the president of the National Electoral Institute is a she, the director or president of the Central Bank is a she. So there is no gender equilibrium anymore. they took over. And we're very glad in Mexico and very proud to have this participation of women in every aspect of Mexican public and private life, which we think is gonna give the country a new strength towards a more equilibrium in our development, and mainly regarding nature. We're very proud of these advances, and they are the result of the feminist movement's ability to institutionalize gender equality through the legislative process. By law, half of the Congress has to be men and half women, and this has to be matched by every party in the political arena. The results of the election indicate that Mexican society has internalized this change. A scientist by training, Sheinbaum earned her PhD with research focused on energy use in Mexico's transportation sector at Berkeley, California. Renowned for her methodical, evidence-based decision-making, her scientific experience will be integral to her administration. Sheinbaum's election is unprecedented. She garnered 60% of the votes, the largest popular support in Mexico's electoral history. That was a... Thank you. Her administration is poised to capitalize on Mexico's social stability, continuing her commitment to social welfare programs, raising the minimum wage and reducing inequality. She has pledged to maintain cash transfer initiatives that have already lifted 5 million people out of poverty and benefited 30 million households, thereby strengthening Mexico's domestic market. Also, in geographical approach, Mexico's south has grown for the first time more than the north. Last year, the south grew 6% and the rest of the country 3.2%. In her victory speech, Sheinbaum outlined her key commitments. First, to a plural, diverse and democratic society that rejects authoritarianism and promotes freedoms of expression, press, assembly, and movement. Second, to focus on financial and fiscal discipline, the autonomy of the Bank of Mexico and the rule of law. Her aim is to achieve shared prosperity for all Mexicans. And third, to maintain a respectful and equal relationship with the United States. Sheinbaum will rely on the existing institutional framework that binds North America to strengthen dialogue and cooperation with the U.S. Members of her team since election, such as Altagracia Gomez, an advisor on regional development, have added that the president-elect intends to develop an industrial and commercial policy that is in line with the Administration Chips and Science Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. The objective would be to give greater certainty to investment, to take advantage of changing economic patterns globally, and to promote nearshoring in Mexico. Dear friends, in a volatile global context, the stability and the strength of the US-Mexico bilateral relationship has never been so crucial for our region and the world. One of the leading British scholars of international relations, Andrew Burrow from Oxford University, observed almost 2 decades ago that North America, meaning the US, Mexico, and Canada, was the region that dares not speak its name. His insight highlighted a paradox. Despite profound levels of economic and social integration, there persisted a reluctance to speak publicly about the cohesive regional cooperation already used in Mexico. This observation underscores a significant disconnect between our discourse and our actual progress. Current narratives are increasingly misaligned with our tangible strengths and the undeniable interdependence that binds our region. The United States and Mexico are far stronger and more integrated than popular narratives and media portrayals often recognize. What do the facts tell us? Well, we built in the last few years a strong pillar of our bilateral relationship. An institutional architecture centered around the USMCA and supported by spaces such as the High-Level Economic Dialogue, the North American Leaders Summit, the Bicentennial Framework, mechanisms that deal with a broad array of issues spanning from economic integration to security. Through these frameworks, Mexico has become the United States' top trading partner, with a total trade exceeding $800 billion in 2023. This means that about 16% of US trade is with Mexico. How big is that? Well, Mexico buys more US products alone than Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore combined. Or Germany, Italy, Spain, France also combined. To showcase the scale of our trade, North Carolina exchange of goods with Mexico is greater than the total US trade with countries like Portugal or Greece combined. According to the Business Roundtable, 150,000 jobs in North Carolina rely on trade with Mexico. In contrast, Chinese investments in Mexico remain relatively low. China ranks as the 18th largest source of Mexico's foreign direct investments, representing only 1.6% of total. And we are receptive to US concerns. In December, Mexico agreed to form a working group with the US on foreign investment screening to guard against national security threats through bolstering critical supply chains and cross-border cooperation. The government is also working on strengthening our tracing of products to prioritize North American content in the region. But the importance of the North American region extends more than merely trade. Just look at the way North Carolina and Mexico are integrated, perhaps more than most people know. Let me mention 5 areas. One is technology. North Carolina's technology sector greatly benefits from the engaged cooperation with Mexico, which contributes significantly to your electronic manufacturing and links to innovation hubs with the research triangle. Second, pharmaceuticals. Mexico's pharmaceutical and biotechnology research, particularly in the states like Jalisco and Nuevo León, complements North Carolina's strong pharmaceutical sector. Also, North Carolina's companies leverage Mexico's growing capabilities in biologics and generic pharmaceutical manufacturing to enhance drug development and production efficiencies. Third, food processing. The food processing industry in North Carolina is deeply connected with Mexico's diverse agricultural output. Products like avocados, berries, and citrus not only enrich our state's food offering, but also highlights our shared commitment to sustainable agricultural practices. Fourth, automotive trade. Mexico is a critical player in the supply chains for major automotive manufacturers, such as those operating in North Carolina. Auto parts produced in Mexico, in states like Coahuila, Puebla, are integral to the assembly process of vehicles manufactured in North Carolina. This relationship supports the state's automobile sector by ensuring a steady supply of key components and fostering opportunities for future joint ventures in electric vehicle production. Fifth, tourism. There is a significant potential for growing tourism between North Carolina and Mexico, especially with new direct flights, enhancing connectivity. Starting July 1st, Aeromexico will offer a daily non-stop flight between Mexico City and Raleigh-Durham International Airports, and there are direct flights from American Airlines also, which makes a link that provides a foundation for attracting more Mexican tourists to explore North Carolina, distinctive cultural and natural attractions, boosting local tourism and encouraging growth. As we enhance our economic interdependencies, Mexico remains committed to promoting a comprehensive regional strategy to tackle complex issues as migration and international security. We recognize migration as a global and regional phenomenon requiring a cooperative multi-nation approach. That's why Mexico has adopted a three-pronged strategy focused on, first, addressing root causes, second, expanding legal pathways, and third, ensuring the protection and legal rights of migrants. Firstly, understanding that economic desperation often derives in migration, we have invested $135 million in Central America to support development and create local opportunities. This is to mitigate the economic need of migrants. This is very important because we are focusing in towns where people are migrating to the north. And when you give them a chance to have a job in their own towns, they don't migrate anymore. And the money you need to do that is very little. You wouldn't believe how little money is needed to start somebody's family economic change. This initiative invites further support, particularly from the United States, that already is investing with Mexico in Central America to amplify our impacts on the structural causes of migration, fostering stability and security in the region. Secondly, our commitment to upholding human dignity and legal processes in migration is evidenced that Mexico's significant role in asylum provision. Last year, Mexico became one of the top 5 countries globally for new asylum claims, receiving 141,000 applications, a 20% increase from the previous year and a record for our humanitarian protection system. Many of the people that are traveling to the north to get to the United States, when they pass through Mexico, they choose to stay in Mexico and are asking for this asylum. Thirdly, to address the irregular flow of migrants and avoid their exploitation by transnational criminal groups, Mexico has established 308 checkpoints for humanitarian rescue and deployed 36,000 elements of the Armed Forces, National Guard, and the National Migration Institute. In the last few months, Mexican authorities have been interdicting and processing more than half of the migrants that were seeking to reach the United States. So half of the flow that was coming to the US is in Mexico. And many of them stay in Mexico, many have permission to work, many have returned to their countries. But it wasn't because of Mexico's help in the border. You would have twice the migrants would have stayed. Just to tell you one thing, I said that we have 36,000 National Guard elements and people from the National Migration Institute. You have in the United States about 19,500 National Guard agents. 19,000, we have 36,000. And the main problem is for the United States. If that is not cooperation, I don't know what is. Mexico is your first ally and your first support in not only trade, but also in this regional phenomena that we have to deal together. And that's something that is not very well recognized. Above all, we need to expand avenues for labor mobility in the region by promoting actions that link supply and demand in labor markets. This can be done most effectively, and you know very well that, through temporary workers' visa. But that necessarily passes through a comprehensive immigration reform in the US Congress, which does not seem close or even possible yet. Mexico's approach is in line with Los Angeles Declaration of 2022 and the regular ministerial level meetings that have been taking place between the US, Guatemala, and Mexico since January to enhance cooperation on hemispheric migration management. A couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting with several governmental offices and agencies in Washington, D.C. to present the interoceanic corridor that will link the Atlantic with the Pacific at the narrowest point of Mexico, the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. This will also be a natural economic development region that will grow very much and will absorb migration flows through jobs and income generation. In security, Mexico, the US, and other global actors also need to collaborate with comprehensive approaches to international criminal organizations. Fentanyl is a game changer because of its addictive power and the ease with which it can be produced and transported. It is also a global phenomenon with precursors coming from Asian countries, production taking place in various countries, including Mexico, but also in Canada and even in the United States, in a much smaller scale, as this year US intelligence community's threat assessment report made clear. To tackle this problem, we need, on the one hand, to address the underlying causes that drive people towards fentanyl abuse, and on the other hand, combat the criminal networks that promote and benefit from this illicit activity. They are two sides of the same coin. A critical aspect of a comprehensive approach is addressing the flow of arms from the US to Mexico. This is an area in which this embassy and the government of Mexico have made significant progress with the help of the United States in recent years with the bicentennial agreement. The fact that about 75% of the weapons recovered at crime scenes in Mexico come illegally from the United States is not only an alarming fact, but also a call to strengthen our policies and mechanisms for cooperation in terms of arms smuggling, control, and border security. Mexico recognizes that the US electoral cycle can often give rise to rhetoric that overshadows the substantive dimensions of our bilateral ties. The implications of this discourse are profound, influencing the long-term stability of our region and extending beyond. The decisions we make and the language we employ in 2024 will undoubtedly shape our interactions and mutual perceptions for generations to come. It is imperative, therefore, that we advocate for mutual respect and a profound understanding of what the US-Mexico relationship truly represents. This relationship is not merely cooperative, it is a strategic alliance that is crucial for fostering an open, competitive, and humanistic North American region. Such a partnership promotes the well-being of our societies and positions us to engage positively with the global community. Our commitment to this vision will guide our efforts to ensure that our interactions reflect the depth and potential of our shared future. Dear friends, in 1984, the New York Times correspondent in Mexico, Alan Riley, wrote a book called Distant Neighbors, capturing the paradoxes and complexities of the US-Mexico relationship. Riley painted a picture of two countries closely linked by geography, yet profoundly divided by economic and cultural goals. 40 years later, the landscape of our relationship has undergone a remarkable transformation, with the practical impacts of our deepening ties now undeniable. Economic cooperation under frameworks such as the USMCA has led to enhanced productivity and competitiveness, fostering job creation and innovation across borders. These efforts underscore our commitment to not only economic prosperity, but also to the broader security, social, and environmental responsibilities we share. This evolution from distant neighbors to strategic partners illustrates that together we are more than the sum of our parts, embarking on a shared future that respects our differences and leverages our strengths. Looking forward, our joint efforts and shared vision can pave the way for a North American region that can become the most resilient, innovative, and humanistic region at the global stage. It is up to us to be brave enough to see each other from our common strengths and dare to finally proudly say the name of our North American region. Thank you very much.
I'm Mike Hawley, former chair of the World Affairs Council. We're going to do some quick Q&A. And if you would please be succinct in your questions and have a question mark at the end, that would be great. We'll get through quite a few of them. We're going to go first, though, to Wayne Cooper, our longstanding honorary counsel, for the first question. The second, is there a second mic floating around? Get the second one. Where is it?
Wayne has the floating one.
We just have one mic?
Yes, that one and then this one.
Okay, yeah, after Wayne asks his question, get it to Andrew back there in the right. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you. Mr. Ambassador, great remark. I appreciate that. I have never seen more excitement over the election of the Mexican president than I have as this happened last month. And how do you see that? I'm sure you must have felt the excitement also in D.C. How do you see this affecting our relations between the two?
Thank you for your question. Well, I think that in Mexico everybody is very excited about the participation of the population. It was an election where we had a very important popular participation. To organize the election is very difficult. You really have to. There are 2 million people that are volunteers to watching every casilla. Full. And so you need 2 million volunteers. And they are very glad to help. And the National Electoral Institute has to open 125,000 polls. So that's a huge technical effort. So people are also very proud of that. We all the Mexicans have a credential, which is a very, very important credential because all your data, it's very, very difficult to make a copy of that. And that's part of the strength of the electoral system. Now, the 2 head runners were women, so we knew that we were going to have a woman president. And that also was very well seen in Mexico. As I said in our words, Claudia Sheinbaum won by 60%. That means that most Mexicans agree on her to be the president. And that also means that you're not having a post-electoral problem, which is a very important issue. So I think that the election will help the bilateral relationship. First, because you will have a president that is absolutely legitimate, that has the support of a majority of Mexicans, And secondly, because she understands very well the relationship. She studied at Berkeley. She is a scientist that studied physics and biology, so she cares a lot about climate change, about energy transition, about all the issues that right now are part of the most innovative agenda in the world. So she will do that by heart, not just because there are pressures to do so. That will be also a very important field of cooperation between Mexico and the US.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We usually have a table or two of students here. We've got a few scattered around, and we're going to pick up questions after we hear from one student, and then Hector over here at the Parker Pope table, and then Tracy Matras from American Airlines, and then we'll pick up. So Andrew, and he's the only one that I recognize here. It is Smitty. But Andrew is the son of Ludmira and Natasha Stambo. And let's give this guy a big round of applause. He just graduated from Myers Park High School 3 or 4 days ago, I think. He is going to Chapel Hill, and he's going to spend his first semester, though, in Seoul, South Korea. And he's an 8-year management student. So, Andrew, this better be good.
All right, so given your current president's background in energy, I was wondering what initiatives she and the rest of Mexico are starting to increase the use of renewable energy in Mexico, and what progress has been made so far on that?
Well, I think that we can analyze your question in 2 different fields, the present and the future. In the present, there is a very big effort around hydro. CFE, which is the electric company, is investing in having more production in 5 or 6 plants in hydro. And the Sonora plant, which is a plant that is based mainly on clean energy, created with Sampra Energy and the CFE, the largest solar field in Latin America. It's in operation right now. So there are huge investments regarding solar energy. And in the Tehuantepec Istmus, where the train is going to unite both oceans, there is a very important investment in wind electric power. Now this is the present, but I believe that Claudia Sheinbaum will take as a personal commitment to work much more faster into the energy transition. Because right now the demand of electricity is at its peak, and with nearshoring the demand will increase, and it's increasing very sharply. So these investments have to be the answer to the needs of all the companies that are moving to Mexico. And as she, as a scientist and a person that really cares about the environment, I think she's going to double down in clean energy.
Thank you. Hector is up next, and Hector's with Parker Pope. He is an international lawyer with lots of connections in Mexico. And Hector, your question, and after your question, if you get that mic to Tracy Montrose. Thank you.
Yes, just a question. As we help our clients do business in Mexico, we have had many companies recently. Again, this is in connection with what we were just talking about. Infrastructure is a big concern. So electrical capacity, access to water, healthcare. So what would make Mexico more desirable and also being able to support all these big investments, going into certain regions that seem to be saturated at this point?
Yeah, I think that the answer is that there is no choice for the next government than to have very strong partnerships with the private sector and with international private sector. Most of the budget in Mexico right now, it's already assigned constitutionally for the social programs. That's why 5 million people came out of poverty. That's why the South grew more than the North. And the minimum salary grew about 250%. And that's why people are happy. But if the budget has no room to create public infrastructure, the only way you can do that is by foreign investments and private Mexican investment. So I'm sure that we're going to see that immediately. Claudia Sheinbaum already presented her plan for the industrial sector, and she had a presentation yesterday with the main organizations of entrepreneurs, and you can see that there is a very, very strong effort to have infrastructural build-up in Mexico. And the only way to do so is by having these joint ventures with private administration.
So Mr. Ambassador, Lubin loves to have big blockbuster announcements at this kind of event, and so I'm going to call on Tracy Montross to ask her question, and a question will suffice. But if you have any big announcements, Tracy, about additional flights to Mexico, now would be the time. And I will say that Tracy, I just described Tracy as the head of American Airlines in this area. That's as good a close I can
You
get.
just promoted me, thank you for that. My name is Tracy Montross. I'm Government and Community Affairs for American Airlines, with our second largest hub here in Charlotte, after our largest hub in DFW. We're very proud to be the gateway for American Airlines to the Caribbean and Mexico, and have a very strong record of service to Mexico. In fact, just a few weeks ago, launched our new service to Tulum. So I wanted to ask about aviation in Mexico. I understand you opened 3 new airports, and wanted to see both how you're looking at the state of aviation in the country, and then also connections through new rail, and give you the opportunity to speak to that as well. Thank you.
Well, as you all know, in Cancun in the last 20 years, there was the need to open 4 new airports, and now a new airport is also Tulum. So the need of infrastructure for the air industry is huge. With the train Maya and the interoceanic corridor, there is also an important infrastructure need, because 10 different industrial zones are going to be built up all around the corridor. Right now, it's planned that the actual airports are enough for the demand that exists, but it's a plan that in the next 10 to 15 years, about 4 to 5 new airports that have to be built in that specific area. So I believe that that's a very important investment in Mexico, and also because it's in the south of Mexico. And the other part is all the semiconductor industry, because in places like Sonora, Chihuahua, Aguascalientes, the industry is going to invest hundreds and thousands of millions of And the transportation of all their products is by plane, is never by railroad or buses, and so that will also push for investment in the central part of Mexico and so on.
Tom, you're up.
Mr. Ambassador, welcome to Charlotte. Pardon me for asking a difficult question, but it's something that's being talked about in the news, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to address it. Over the last 5 years in the current administration in Mexico, we've seen kind of a fraying at the edges of direct agency-to-agency cooperation in the war on drugs and narco cartels. And there have also been reports in the news media during that same time period that we're seeing the expropriation of American assets, particularly the energy and natural gas sector and mining sectors. Is it likely that the new administration, the new president, might represent a change of direction in these important areas that seem to be kind of fraying around the edges?
Well, I think that regarding security, the cooperation of both countries is needed. What we have tried to do is to have a regional approach to this problem. Because if you see the political narrative, you will see that sometimes an American senator says openly that the best way to deal with the fentanyl is to send the army to Mexico, invade Mexico, kill the head of the cartels, and problem solved. And you know very well that that's something that cannot be done. I told this senator, we want to learn from you. Why don't you start from the border north and kill all the drug dealers, and we will learn if that's efficient or not. Why making the problem of going to another country? The true thing is that the international criminal organizations know very well their business and learn how to make it bigger and stronger. And we cannot spend our time finger pointing ourselves. Because as I said, fentanyl comes mainly from India and China. And is produced in Mexico, in Canada, and in the US. And this international network is something that led the US to create what is called the Global Coalition Against Fentanyl. And Mexico joined that global coalition. Also, we have a North American security dialogue between Canada and the United States and Mexico. We share a lot of information. And with this information, we have seized millions of dollars from the drug gangs. And we have extradited the important criminals to the US. Also, we have the bicentennial agreements, just the two countries. And so we are doing a great effort to fight against the drug problem. Now, if you go to the depth of why there is so much addiction of opioids in the US, you might also want to learn about the painkillers, because that's part of the root of this problem. So you have to see the whole scenario to work on it. We as Mexicans have seen that many Mexican workers still like to use fentanyl when they are in pain and tired of their work. But fentanyl, as I said, it's a game changer because you can get addicted very, very fast in the first or second time you use fentanyl. That's why it's so dangerous. And third, the power of these international organizations is increasing, and sometimes, most of the times, it's bigger than any police organization, and sometimes bigger than the army. So we have to stop the flow of arms that makes them so strong. We're investing $5,000 million together, US and Mexico, in the border in order to have more technology and to see what's coming from the south to the north and from the north to the south regarding this problem. So I think that the lack of cooperation is not something that really shows how Mexico and the US are working together to solve this issue. And I also think that as long as we have the permanent dialogue instead of finger pointing, that would make us stronger against this organization.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I know these are very sensitive issues, and we appreciate your candor on these things. Yes, this gentleman right here, and we've got a hard stop at 1:20. We've got to get the ambassador out here, so if you can make your questions quick, we'll get them handled.
Yeah, hello, Jörg Buchenau from UNC Charlotte. I'm a historian of Mexico. The one thing I see in common is concerns about the Supreme Court, both north and south of the border. In the United States, we have a Supreme Court that many people see as politicized. In Mexico, we have the Supreme Court at the center of a political firestorm, as AMLO and Sheinbaum both consider, of course, the system of having the popular election of Supreme Court justices. Can you tell us a little bit more about that initiative and how you see it impacting the Mexican politics, but also the US-Mexican relations?
Yeah, there are 18 different initiatives that the President López Obrador wants to send to the Congress. As far as we know, and this I know really by the news, this is not my field and this has nothing to do with my work. Claudia Sheinbaum is going to, let's say, authorize that only 3 of those initiatives, of those 18 initiatives, are going to the Congress. Now she says that there will be an open Congress, which means that anybody who wants to say something about that initiative will have the time and the space to say so. I don't know the initiative. We know what the press has shown, and we'll have to wait to see more about it. I don't want to give you an opinion on something that I don't really know in depth. What I want to tell you is that there is a need of a reform. If you ask any lawyer, if you ask the most conservative lawyers or the most progressive people, there is a need to have a reform of the legislative branch, of the judiciary branch. Because many of the people that are caught by the army or by the police and are given into the hands of the judiciary, you can see them walking out in days. And so they say, why do I have to risk my life to catch somebody that steps out very, very rapidly? And so that change has to be done. I don't know what is the whole proposal, but I think that let's say the opportunity cost of changing the actual system is not very high. That's a personal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Get the mic over to Bill McNamara in the time that it takes to get to Bill. He will have thought of his question. Actually, he's writing it down, and then we'll go to the back for our final question. And if you could get that mic to the back right after Bill.
Heads up on the next one. So I'm aware that there are some social fabric that's created by children who parents live in Tijuana, who come north to San Diego for their education, mostly in the parochial schools. That is a very symbiotic relationship that weaves threads into the fabric of these children's lives that will last forever. Can you talk about how that social exchange has occurred and where else it occurs along the border as a positive part of U.S.-Mexico relations? Thank you.
And I will add that Bill is one of those kids from Southern California, from San Diego.
Well, thank you very much for asking that, because what happens in the border is a very vibrant phenomenon, which is that there is a population of around 35 million people. And this population takes the best out of both countries. So they send their children to school in one country, they go to the doctor in the other country, they go to the grocery in one country, and they live in another. I was telling Wayne that when I went to very near San Diego, in San Isidro's port of entry, there was 10 lines of cars, 1 kilometer long, coming into the US at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was with CBP agents looking at all that scenery, and they told me, you see all these cars? 90% of those cars are Americans coming to the US, because they live in Mexico and they work in the US. And so you see that in many parts of the border. And if you ask people that live in the border how they feel about how the border is seen in the rest of the country, they say they know nothing about how we live here in the border. Because I think that's an example of how you can get the best out of the two countries in a very familiar way. And many of those communities are family. So I think that's something that would be encouraged, because also a lot of Mexicans live in San Diego also. And this is not just in the West, also if you go to Laredo and Laredo. I was invited to Laredo, and I had several meetings, and then I was invited to Laredo, and I had other meetings, but the people were the same.
And if you can give us a 15-second question, we'll get you a 15-second answer, and we're going to wrap up.
Yeah, Ivan Segura with the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs. In South Carolina, we have a very fast-growing and very young Mexican population. As ambassador of Mexico, what would you tell these young Mexicans to inspire them to remain engaged with the homeland, and also about the importance of them preserving their cultural heritage?
There is a big effort that we're doing in order to ask Mexicans that have the legal pathway to become citizens to do so. If you analyze most of nationalities, Mexicans are very well behind most of the nationalities that can become citizens. And some of them say, I'm going to lose my Mexican nationality, which is not true, you can have both. Some others say this is a kind of treason to my homeland, which is not true. If you want to really serve your community and your Latino community, it's better if you have the citizenship and you can fight for being in the Congress and participate in building a society that you think is better. So we are making a huge effort. There are 2.5 million Mexicans that can become American citizens just by applying, because they have all the legal requirements to do so. And I believe that something which is very important is that if you analyze the Mexican migration to the US, you don't see a homogeneous culture. If it's first generation, or second generation, or third generation, we're speaking about 3 different ways of feeling Americans and feeling Mexicans. And the integration of the Mexican people in the third generation is almost total.
And with that, let's give the ambassador a big round of applause.
This is really a great day for Charlotte. We're so happy that you were able to come and help us today, understand our relationship a little bit better. I think we all know that we're closely tied, but it's when we hear the facts and you get a real face with it, it really helps a lot. And so on behalf of the World Affairs Council, really want to thank you and your wife, my new friend Cecilia, for joining us today. I do have a little token that I think you and I have to take a picture together. Thank you. You get the picture.